You're with Julian on the Brown Notes, and Donald Trump setting himself on fire. So Donald Trump spent the last 15 years or so, ever since he became a talking head on Fox News, sparking enormous flames of political rhetoric, a very damaging rhetoric, very destructive rhetoric. And of course, there's always going to be blowback from this rhetoric. It's just ironic that it's blown back on him so far. And we saw throughout his tenure as president that he would happily engage in this kind of explosive rhetoric from his very first campaign rally, where he said the Mexicans were sending rapists and murderers to the United States, and found a willing audience in that kind of rhetoric. But of course, there's always going to be things like the marches in Charlottesville where someone died and Trump supporters were marching through the streets waving swastikas, flags, and chanting anti-Jewish slogans. And of course, it all boiled over in the Jan 6 attempted insurrection, where Trump supporters tried to actually overthrow the government, which is nice. I guess the one thing that most people have been waiting for is when that explosive rhetoric would result in someone trying to assassinate a political leader, which has obviously had the attempts have happened, and the two attempts so far have been on Donald Trump. Schadenfreude, I'm not sure how you say it, but the Germans have a word for this. So we had the guy a few months, just before Kamala Harris took over, which blew the whole story out of the water. We had that young guy on the rooftop try and take out Trump, and there was no narrative that they could use from that, particularly because of his basically conservative leaning and the fact that he'd been registered as a Republican, and his classmates said that he basically was a conservative, and no one to this day really knows why he did it. But he was shot and killed. Then another guy a couple of days ago has done the same thing, hiding out in a golf course, a guy that is originally a Trump voter from 2016, and then has basically supported either a Democrat that has turned into a Republican or has supported more libertarian candidates, but is very much pro going to fight in Ukraine. And obviously Trump is Putin's bitch. So he's basically said that he will be withdrawing from the, funding the conflict in Ukraine. So that would seem a much more clear-cut opportunity as to why. Whereas that first one just seems so strange still, what that kid was up to. So it's like he's come out with the absolute gall to try and blame the Democrats for these assassination attempts recently, for saying that their rhetoric has caused this, when he is the all-time Hall of Fame rhetoric master. Now, this is only going to get worse over the next couple of months. And I said this months ago as well, that the next few months, especially now he's very sure, well, he's not sure because he's delusional, but most people are pretty sure that he's going to lose and Carmela's going to win. And I posted that a few weeks ago as well. So him lashing out is only going to get worse. But also the amount of people that are going to come out of the woodwork is going to get worse. And it's not just restricted to crazies. I mean, people in positions of intended government. The New Hampshire Libertarian Party of New Hampshire posted a tweet on Twitter. Anyone who murders Kamala Harris would be an American hero. And then they deleted it because they lamented that the site didn't allow you to speak freely. Which is quite remarkable, because I was under the impression that there were actually, even inclusive of America's free speech laws, that there were caveats regarding incitement to murder. One of the most astonishing things I've seen, it is remarkable so far that the attempts have been on Donald and not on Carmela. But they're actually saying this, that one thing that happens when people on the extreme fringes of politics say things openly and aren't dismissed as psychopaths is that it allows people closer and closer to the center that are really bad faith actors to invoke the same sentiments and think that, they move the outlying ground to the center so that they can actually say something that I would have thought would get you arrested. Saying that somebody who murdered Kamala Harris would be a hero, I would have thought was actionable by a Justice Department. Especially when we've just had 2 back-to-back assassination attempts of one of the 2 candidates involved in the next American election. And the rhetoric extends to more than that. We've seen J.D. Vance with his incredible take on the doubling down on saying that Haitians eat geese and cats, and Donald Trump famously making a fool of himself by repeating that rhetoric on stage and saying, well, I'm allowed to create stories basically because it will promote discussion about those issues, which is saying that he lied. But the impact of the story about Haitians eating pets and geese, even though it was wildly debunked at the time, has had an enormous impact on that town. People are living in fear in that town. Haitians are not sending their children to school, and they've got weirdos riding around the town now. So these all have massive impacts. And you would have said, why isn't the law involved? There's freedom of speech, but it doesn't extend to the kind of demonizing and hurtful rhetoric that causes genuine harm. He couldn't say something these people can't say something outwardly racist because it is against the law, even with free speech. How are they allowed to call for murder? And obviously it plays up to the anti-immigrant rhetoric that has been embedded in a very, very racist Trump area, which is, gone from claiming Mexicans are sending rapists and murderers to the United States all the way to saying that Haitians are eating your pets. Ironically, I said a little while back, I think that if Biden was involved in this election as a candidate now, we would be heading for civil war, because the fact is that it would have been a very close election. But with Kamala involved, it does seem to have taken the steam out of that divisive rhetoric exploding into wide-scale violence. Because I don't think she's in any danger of really having a close election against Trump. I think he's going to get worse over the next couple of months. He's showing that he can't react to her at all, and that she can play him like a fiddle. But it doesn't take a whole group of thousands of people like it did on January the 6th to assassinate somebody or to set a bomb off. It takes one person, one crazy. And I guess the crushing irony of all of this, even though I've used irony about 100 times in this bit already, Fox News created this template of very angry older Americans that are perpetually the victim, who are furious all of the time. And they lost control of that group around the time of the Tea Party and Sarah Palin. And that group became ever more aggressive. And is it Trump's turn now? Has he lost control of these crazies that he helped create?